So we're not talking ancient world, we're talking 1913.
That's right.
Are we clear?
Clear.
So the incremental step of the birthright and the changing of the allodial titles to mortgages and deeds is part of the birthright theft. And is also part of what necessitated the Europeans promoting the pretext that they were the Americans, which they are not. And also why it was necessary for them to promote that we were blacks and Negroes so that we would not be descendable. And also why they put their family names on our people so that whatever they bought or sold with the mark or the number of that name became automatic state property under what is known as wardship tenures. Write that down, wardship. That's W-A-R-D-S-H-I-P, tenures. That's a military operations under unum sanctum. And I'll remind you again, when you know the conversion of your estates to the Europeans under the unum sanctum policy, you would also recognize a great part of the motive of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in 1913 with the command by himself to the Queen of England to stop putting them brands on us and stealing our estates and to enforce the Constitution. Specifically, the nobility clause that had been removed. And then you'll see correlations. And the interesting thing, I was talking to a brother actually yesterday, and the Europeans, they have this law firm that the CIA supports called the Southern Christian, something like that, poverty law firm. Yeah, and they put out a couple of Negro trolls on me in New York, talking about that the birthright, that nationality has nothing to do with the trust operations and with Noble Drew Ali, etc. When the heart of the movement is the enforcement of the Constitution. And those of you who have read the Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nation will see that. You know, and I don't spend a lot of time trying to counter the trolls that the CIA sends out there. You know, but they usually send persons looking like us to do that. But they're counting on the fact that many of the people don't read. And they're also counting on the fact that many of the people who are alleged to represent the Prophet will not take this information to the hedges and the highways and will do clubisms and then limit the literature that they give to the people so that the people can't critique them for misrepresenting the Prophet. And then enforce caveat emptor and get them out them seats and carry out the law that should have been carried out generations ago so that we wouldn't have to come to venues outside of the temple to give information that would otherwise be blocked, if you get the point. Now that's being blunt, and that's for the trolls.
The question is, what is the nobility clause and where was it removed from?
From the Constitution, and the best way to demonstrate is to show you. You can get it in the congressional records too. And about 25 years ago, we've been sharing it with people. Because as you already know, because you work with us, we always try to give people documentary reference because we always have trolls out there who are trying to dismiss the information for the purpose of negating the people or slowing them down. They can't stop the movement, they slow down. Let me see if I can find. And this is one of the reasons why I also did, you know, the treaty book and the Constitution, because knowing in constitutional principle that treaty and the Constitution are one document and are to be looked at as one document. And persons who have been supposedly teaching these people enforcing the Constitution, particularly those who have been studying the illustrious Prophet Noble Ali, have, you know, we've had treason amongst persons that were supposed to teach. And so, as a matter of fact, some of them even attack us for teaching constitutional principles. Yes. Yes, they do. So what I did the treaty book and the Constitution to give people a reference. And actually, this was briefed. You know, because you can make books thick, but I try to keep things simple and to the point and give people reference and then leave enough space for them to study so it becomes their own. So let's go to, let me see, original Article of Amendment 13 and its 20 sections. Hold on, I think we're in this. Here we go. Here we go. Now, and because I know that amongst our own that they send trolls out, so I even left the text as it is in the congressional records as picture rather than retyped. This is the nobility clause.
Make it a little bigger.
Yes, the original Article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. And we passed this out to people for years to counter so-called leader guys who've been misrepresenting. Now, you notice that you'll see 20 sections that in the Constitution as they're teaching the children now in school, they'll have 2 sections. You'll have 2 sections in it, you'll not see the rest. So this is, yes, 13, original Article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. All right? Now I want you to also notice, Article 12.
No sense.
Now I want you all to read Article 12 with me, so you can see also why it was necessary for them to pay so-called black reverend leader guys to promote the 14th Amendment, which was the cover-up. And remember, Drew Ali said the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of our people and citizens. Didn't he? They covered up the 13th. Read number 12, y'all. Read it out loud so they can hear you. Choice world, because going across the world.
Pain of death and the forfeiture of all rights and property of persons engaged therein, and descendants of Africans shall not be citizens.
So what happens when they have marching Negro leader guys going around getting our people to be 14th Amendment Negro citizens for the privilege of voting that don't damn count? They're stopped because you're the heirs of the land. Descendants of the Moors, you're at Morocco, you're under occupation by Europeans. With the enforcement of the Constitution, they're supposed to, what, live by the treaty, which they've abrogated to steal your birthright. Are we clear? Clear. And then they paid Negro marching troll leader guys to convince you that the 14th Amendment made you citizens when you could never be citizens because you're under occupation and they're foreigners on your land. That's why they won't show this in the school books. And all scholars know this. They stay away from this kind of stuff because they get a 501c3 kickback. Corporations be funding their Negro marching group organizations with some Reverend 32-degree Mason guy. Got a Moorish fez and pretending they don't know these people are Moors. Islam.
What?
Just want to camel walk.
Pretty over there.
Article 1,
Yes.
Section 9, subsection 8, it says, no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit, trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title or of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. So that's Article 1, Section 9, subsection 8.
And so what happens? 99% of all of the persons who are claiming to be congressmen and senators are barristers. How did that take place? They overthrew the Republic form of government in 1861 in order to neutralize the Republic form of government and to hide the real parts of the Constitution and then pay people to make our people think that they would be U.S. citizens, which is a private corporation that Lincoln bankrupted, that's registered in France, 1754 by Benjamin Franklin, which is a corporate entity, is not a country. Are we clear? And any scholar knows that, any politician knows that, any Mason knows that, any Grand Sheik knows that, any Skull and Bones member knows that, any Grand Dragon of the Kaiplow's Ku Klux Klan knows that. And the only ones that don't know it is the heirs to the estate who've been cheated by people claiming to be Grand Sheiks who betrayed the Prophet Noble Ali. Which is why they don't teach constitutional law and why they spend half their time instead of going after the European attacking Taji guy for telling the truth. Go ahead, Doctor.
Islam, Section 12, the last part says, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens.
That's of the U.S. corporate entity.
Which we are not.
And can never be.
Can't never be, but we are Moors, and we are aboriginal to the land.
We're nationals of the Moorish nation.
Of the nation, so.
In treaty with
does that apply?
United States. See, we're in treaty with them. What they've done is traded places with you. And then dismissed you altogether. And then trying to exterminate you. See, this is where people need to understand what's happening. The impostorship is where the identity crisis comes in. They've been claiming to be Americans, they're not. That's right. They claim you to be black, which you're not. They're using the sovereignty and your name to do things in your name around the world against your interests and against other people too. Are we clear? Yeah. Let me say this again. It is very important for everyone to be clear on what's happening here. Okay. And this is a synopsis, and this is for those of you who don't know, and most of you do know, but just for those who don't know, so that you can follow this stuff, so that you can critique what I'm telling you. Don't accept what I'm telling you. Analyze what I'm telling you, and I'm giving you reference points so you can see for yourself. Because there's people that look you in your face that claim to be sheiks and reverends and bishops and rabbis who've been lying to you and getting paid in the background, which is why they get angry at people like me for exposing this stuff to you. Talking about Taji tells them too much. They do. We all getting screwed, and I'm telling you too much. No, what I'm telling you exposes some of these people around you as traitors. That's what it does. That's why they're mad. Go ahead.
Is this document on the flash drive?
No, this is in the treaty book. You have this.
Treaty of Peace and...
Yes. This is the Treaty and Constitution book, the TAN book. Yeah. Right after I talk about naturalization.
Hold it up, hold it
and,
up.
And the, yes.
Come in closer.
How about that old book?
I can't,
Yes.
people are asking where to find it.
And the prophet reminded you all so that you wouldn't get smoked. He said, look, the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. Study. And when you would have studied well and would ask me what to study next, I would reply, study yourselves. But if you don't know yourself, you can't study yourselves. So what do you do when you study? This is what you study. When you study Constitution, the prophet said, help me to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. That's a covenant. So what occurs as soon as you do the research? You find that every time Noble Ali made a move, the Romans made a counter move. If you didn't study, you wouldn't recognize it. You just, start repeating things. Praise Allah for Prophet Noble Ali. I didn't know who I was yesterday, now I do today. Thank you, and I got a peanut butter sandwich. Oh, hallelujah to you. And that's what people be doing. And they really need to understand that this man is trying to restore your estate that you lost. And our people don't even know half of them don't even know what a state is or what a state law is. They don't even know about the Global Estate Trust that the Pope set up after defeating the Moors for administrating over conquered lands. And you have some grand sheiks and chicas out there saying, Todd, you telling them about trust. And he shouldn't be telling them about trust. It ain't got nothing to do with the movement. It got every damn thing to do with this movement. Are we clear? Because that's how they've been robbing you. Are we clear?
Yeah.
And you know what? And this is what I discovered too, over the years. And it has, on a personal level, it's one of the reasons I set up the Roundtable in '82. Being involved in different organizations and recognizing when you really get into controversial truths, people who you think will be trying to help the people be the first ones trying to suppress that information. Meanwhile, in the background, they're getting a few coins at the expense of the people that they're supposed to be helping. And then the people believe in them because they got titles. Grand Poobah with 50 badges across here and a sash across here, and they're all important. Raping the people. And the people never suspect them. I ain't too keen with people like that. And I don't care if they don't like me. Because the people approve me, not them. I work for the people, not them criminals. Islam.
Simon's question to ask, wants to ask why you're talking about the Pope's property estate law instead of Islamic property estate law.
Because they're controlling the estate. Logic. If they knew history, they'd know that. This is why we're teaching the history, because if they know this thing, they know what the tie is. Why is it that we're doing what we're doing? You're under occupation. One of the greatest problems that we have is our people denying that they're under occupation.
All right.
And pretending that they're spiritual. Families falling apart, IRS taking all of our stuff. They're packing the jails with our people. They're pumping mind controls, substances under the name of drugs, planting cancers in them.
And the food.
Lacing marijuana, that's why they're legalizing it now, with GMOs. These people are, all questions are all right. There's no wrong questions. But some questions our people, by this time, should have grown out of. We're under European hegemony occupation. They're controlling our estate. They've traded places. They're claiming to be Americans, and our Americans are claiming to be black. Duh. Which makes them not descendable.
Come on.
And we need to fix that. Then we got black leader guys keep trying to pump that black thing. So that's why we take the baby, Shania, to a dictionary. Baby showed you that these people ain't black. And she wasn't aware of it. Just show her how to read a dictionary. And how many trolls out there they have arguing and trying to tell our people that black is identity. A scholar knows that that's a co-intellectual operation. A person who can't read doesn't know that though. So I'm not debating with them. We're teaching the people to read so the people themselves will know to cast off them Judases. Because they're sacrificing your babies whether you know it or not. Now, synopsis again. Synopsis. Pope Boniface III, put that on, write that down, because you're going to do some research, y'all, because y'all need to bring some solutions to these issues. And the only reason why they can continue to get away with this stuff is because our people continue to be ignorant of fundamental things, fundamental truths. You get this idea, if you really pay attention to our people, they get this idea that they're so spiritual. No, I'm serious, like, we got some special protection. No, we're full of doo-doo. We really, and people need to tell us to our face we need to stop faking and sacrificing our babies. Trying to tell them they're doing fine and they're saved and all they see is broken families. Daddies in jails and half the other ones homos. And the women who's being packed in the jails now, struggling, trying to take care of their babies. We're full of doo-doo and we need to stop faking it. Stop sacrificing our babies with our arrogant, ain't saved selves. Now, in 1754, Benjamin Franklin set up the United States Service Corporation. That's Benjamin Franklin. Don't get it twisted. Now understand, Barack H. Obama put his neck on the line and exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law, which it does, and which it did. The world's oldest running treaty, which he made mention of a later section, he talked about the Treaty of Tripoli, 1790, which is a part of the series of the treaties of peace and friendship, which is the world's oldest running treaty between the Moroccan Empire and Britain, i.e. under their colony operations called the United States. In union with the Moorish nation, as the Moorish nation was falling, that was to stop the hundreds of years wars between the Muslims and the Christians, who are really the Constantinians operating under the name Christian. And this is where you get the longest running treaty. That's what Barack H. Obama was talking about. Are we clear? Clear. Which is why he had pictures taken of him with Michelle with the true Al-Moroccan flag right here. And they cut out the trading banner, not for disrespect, but to make it clear what the message is. Are we clear? And for those of you who got a phone, take your phone out right now, just keep it down, silent, and speak into your phone, Barack H. Obama and Moorish flag. He's showing you the true American flag. Then they come back and they sign the rights of indigenous people. Now I'm going to give you a synopsis so you can know the politics, so you know what every Mason knows, all Knights Templars knows, all Illuminati knows. Our people will be talking about these people all the time. You know, the Illuminati is doing spooky stuff up in Nibiru with the 13th planet that comes on the 90th angle through the universe of the darkness. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They're just talking stuff that they hear. No, I'm serious. Our people need to really get educated and stop being played. It's nonsense.
You said when they walked through the doors, him and Obama, Michelle and Obama.
Microphone.
Just talk in your phone. Say Barack H. Obama and Moorish flag.
Thank you. Islam.
Good brother. Give a brother Mike.
She has a
Oh,
question.
excuse me. Okay.
You said when Obama and Michelle came through the doors, I did see that picture with them. She had on the radio.
Sure, because it's a message to the world.
Yes, and you said that's when they signed over the rights for the.
No, after they came back, they signed the rights of indigenous people for these people to declare their nationality.
Okay.
The whole world has been addressing this, and your biggest problem, when I say I'm talking about our biggest problem, is people who've been misrepresenting Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who's on their paper supposed to be on these hedges and these highways and waking these people up.
Yeah, but it's people that been declaring their nationality.
Of course they are. What have we been doing?
Right.
We've been giving freely information that our people have been selling to them as packages.
What?
Making it available to them. That's why. Let me tell you something. Justice is on the way. These traitors, and they've been getting away with it. And that's fine. I wouldn't mind it so much if they didn't talk trash. You know, they spend more time critiquing me than going after Rome.
Exactly.
They mad because when I show people stuff and people start doing research, and it exposes them as COINTELPRO operatives. That's why they're mad. And they can't get these people's finances no more. They've been stealing these people's finances for buses that never appear, for buildings that never get erected, roofs that continue to leak. I don't even, you know. Let's stop that, because I'm really getting, it really, you know, it's like, really, I'm going back to this. That's why I got rid of my guns. Because I'm a Frankenstein on the other hand, too. No, I'm serious.
I hope you kept one.
Oh, yeah. I was kicking so much ass, they kicked me out of prison, in jail, in the service. I was going to take some people out. And I'm an expert with weapons. Not a marksman, expert with weapons. And I got another side of me. This is therapy for me. It really is.
Good.
Taji guy ain't as nice as people think Taji guy is. I mean, he'll pass. Barely. Yeah, I'm telling you, you have no idea the many nights I wake up with my stomach grinding for years, and I had to calm that Frankenstein down. So I converted to love. Like for real. Get up, Brother Mike.
Peace, brother. My name is Andre L. Jahan Bey.
Islam, good brother.
Islam more. I want to reflect on something that leads up to that and give that authority right there. Let's talk about King James 6 and 1. After King James died, and then they placed him with an imaginary King James something.
Yeah.
This gives them that authority from 1754 because King James was going to give the papacy the authority to do what they wanted to do at the time, and they were trying to take the authority from
And
them.
always is self-authority, yeah.
So it leads up to us to this day right here at 1754, whereas though now after he died mysteriously, you know, now all of a sudden he gets this authority to take over and incorporate it.
Yeah, stay in the mic.
Incorporate it as far as, you know, the United States is
and this, now let's,
serve his purpose.
yeah, now let's hang right on to
Very
that.
interesting.
This is what must be understood. This is what be understood. And analyze this too, good brother. Analyze this too. All right. Now, fatwa, a barrister cannot hold office under the United States. Because the United States is based in, the Republic is based in allodial law.
Right.
All right, in Muslim law. It was necessary for them in order to continue the unum sanctum policy to overthrow the republic, but veil it or cover it up.
Right.
And this is where it took place. As negotiations, you can check international law records. Go to archives in England. Check communications between the Moroccan Empire and Britain. Paris Treaty, all those treaties. That leads up to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786-87. Then the adoption of the Northwest Ordinance, 1788. And the first signing of the Constitution, 1788, solidified 1789. And then the appointment of George Washington to take Benjamin Franklin's place, etc., who was a minister plenipotentiary under Sidi Muhammad, Emperor of Morocco, with the formation of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Now, this is the key. This is the key. Though we know that George was the ninth, John Hanson, the Moor, they made the Great Seal for John Hanson. And he's the only president that used the seal. No president used the seal after John Hanson. Seal's on the note, but no one used that seal but John Hanson, who was the first president for the Republic Order, 1781.
Let me interject you for a minute. Let me speak about that because, see, we have a little discrepancy about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to elaborate on John Hanson a little bit more than it is right now because there's more truth that's coming out about that,
Yeah.
you know, than it is actually being pronounced. So I like you to go a little bit more on that and not just leave us with just John Hanson.
Well, because what I'm really trying to do is show where the conversion takes
I feel
place.
you though, but you
Now,
know,
1781 is when the Republic form was adopted for the Constitution. And at that time, they only held the office average of 1 year. Of 1 year. Now, when George was appointed, one of the things that George did was convert the Bonnevilles and the estates into the states. This is where so much emphasis is put on George Washington. But the key is to understand what we're battling now, mostly, even though it goes back to Pope Boniface, you know, we talk about incremental steps, is with what Wilson did to counter Noble Drew Ali, with converting the allodial titles and the aboriginal titles to mortgages and liens in 1913. All having to be built on this platform that they set up in 1861. And then solidified in 1871, which is called the Act of Congress. All right, this is the sine die, which is really a coup d'etat.
May 10th.
Yeah, but this is what's important. This is what we need to get across to everyone. This is where the identity crisis comes in. This is where the causal point of the Moorish movement has a great root of action, where it calls you to action. The United States Service Corporation, which was set up in France by Benjamin Franklin, that corporation was to deal with most of the service contracts for the organic operations of government at the North Gate. This is why Shriners and Masons in your high degrees are called keepers of the North Gate. The North Gate is Northwest Amexem, North America, heartland of the Moroccan Empire. Under occupation, are we clear?
Clear.
When you start checking England's records and the correspondence between the Moroccan Empire and England, you will find the letters coming right on up to George Washington's communications. And you'll find that John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Madison were all Masons. They were deists. They were not Christians. They were deists. They had Korans. They tried to protect the Republic order. It was undermined. Are we clear? When in Lincoln's administration, this is when they did the Sine Die, 1861, May 10th. It was a coup d'etat. The plot and the plan was and is still operational right now, which is why we're here, talking what we're talking. To convert the debt of this corporation that Lincoln bankrupted. He could not run on the organic platform, so they ran him on this platform so that he could control the numerated powers of government. This has much to do why the Europeans killed him. And this not even, we're not even talking about just the Dungy case that he did 5 years before he was president.
Teach right there.
Or the Opus Dei issue with Charles Chilliquay. We don't want to get off on that. We want to stay focused on the things that count to you now.
All right.
What is the sequence? What can you do? How can we save Shania's estate? That's what I'm interested in. So I'm giving you key points. You can do the refined research yourself. I'm giving you proof beyond doubt. The mission of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali to restore your estate. Don't believe me. Look at it for yourself. And you're going to recognize that you got traitors amongst you that's calling themselves sheiks and sheikesses. Everybody keeps talking about the sellout, but they don't get into details. I'm getting into details.
All right.
You know, they can do what they want to do, but Taj is going to do what he knows to do. This United States corporation, Lincoln was run on this platform because he could not run on the platform of the Republic's order because of the nobility clause. Are we clear?
Clear.
This is why they would dress him in Moorish garb in the newspapers all the time. And that's why they called him Africanus the First. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Because he was doing things to counter their theft operations. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me and then you get with this. It's important for you to keep this in mind. The order, Societas Republica et Americanos, which is the Moorish Republic Society at North America, is renamed the United States Republic. Are we clear?
Clear.
The Republic, with this coup d'etat, the act of Congress here established the U.S. democracy platform. Excuse me. That's what this established, which is an imposter platform in order for the criminality of unum sanctum to continue under disguise of legitimate government, which is really colored. Drawley said, you're not Negro, black, or colored. He give you codes. If you start researching, you'll find this stuff. This is a color of law platform. That's an imposter platform covering up the legitimate republic. Article 4, Section 4, look at that Constitution. Someone read it. Article 4, Constitution. Give her the mic. This is very important because you want to get these concepts. Because I want to get back to subject, and this is the identity crisis, but you must understand the purpose, the function of it, not just the fact of it. You need to understand its political function, because you will not be inspired to do anything about it until you really comprehend why it's in place. Once you understand why it's in place, Taj, you guys, nobody else have to tell you anything. When Drawley said to these Moors, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, you'll understand what that statement really means. That statement is so far bigger than most people give it credit for. You have no idea. The problem that we have right now is because Rome is under pressure, they're accelerating the liquidation of the estates. And so people that have been passive with this information are going to find themselves in a condition that they really don't want to be in. Meaning that you don't have a lot of time to keep messing around with this information. That's what I'm telling you bluntly. So I'm trying my best to the limit of my limited capacity to tell you as much truth as I can to get you active, to kind of put a wrench in the gears, because the machinery is already in operation. And they do intend to exterminate you. And my suggestion, honestly, truthfully, from an ethereal position, is that nature has to come to your rescue. There has to be enough sincerity shown amongst you that nature rescues you, because you ain't got no other machinery that's going to save you from this Roman. Go ahead.
Article 4, Section 4?
Yes.
The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence.
Now, does that say democracy?
No.
Does R and D, are they interchangeable?
No.
You ask the average person that's been mind controlled under the Rockefeller Foundation, and they will tell you democracy, which sanctions the fraud that they're marching and complaining about, sacrificing their own babies to the demons. So the true Americans keep on sanctioning the BS, and they keep letting people who claim to love Prophet Noble Drawley do everything but enforce that Constitution and let them hold them seats instead of enforcing caveat emptor, and they're getting ready to pay a dear price for it. A very dear price. That platform is a platform of Satanists. A platform for demons. A political, the political platform that was necessitated for them to be operating on the planet and go uncovered or go covered up is the U.S. democracy platform that was set up in 1871. That's the physical, that is the political platform for the legal, not lawful, conversion of the Moorish estate that Noble Drawley is fighting for. That he told you to help him in the missionary work to bring the people back into the constitutional fold of government. And these people keep acting like that's his issue and ain't yours. Well, it's your estate. And if you didn't know it, you need to know it now. Islam. It's your estate. This is why the Europeans started calling themselves Americans, because they are corporate stockholders in the United States Corporation Company in France that Lincoln bankrupted. when Lincoln discovered they were using him to undermine the Republic, he deliberately bankrupted that United States Service Corporation whose platform he was run on. Are we clear?
Yeah.
The plan was to take the heirs of the estates, the Moors, and enforce the brand system to remove them from claim, reversionary claim, or right of claim to the estate. That's why the European put his family names on them. Anything they buy or sell with the mark or the number of that name makes them state property. Period. They're not descendable. Any one of them using the Negro, black, or colored brands, their brands are not descendable.
Come on.
And are not protected under international law because no such people exist. And they're not part of any constitution or treaty. The treaty with the Moroccan Empire, it ain't with no black nation. It ain't with no Negroites. No, you gotta understand, we're talking trust law, we're talking estate law. Our people need to understand this stuff is no joke. But what I recognize is that people who know this information have not emphasized it, and our people don't know how much trouble they're in. All of your other economic problems stem from this here. Your economic problems stem from this. Noel Drawley said, children, you're just rich. That's what he's talking about. But the problem he has is getting these people active and not passive. Islam, good brother. Islam. Get the mic, please.
Islam, Moab, Message Bay, Taj. You talk that when you're talking about inheritance. You talk about hereditaments, corporal and incorporal. You're talking about descendant.
Yes, all those things.
Yeah.
That means the corporal, that means the physical. And understand when you're talking land, people think that even when you're talking land, that you're talking the aggregate soil. You're talking about all rights of titles, liberties, and other things that don't appear to come under that title. You're talking intellectual properties. You're talking about preserved literature that the Jesuits have, that they've been having underground, that they robbed from Alexandria. Are we clear? The libraries that they robbed. They put the world behind over 500 years and got you enslaved with oil and a whole bunch of energy systems that are depreciatory and that are outmoded. Over thousands of years ago, they pulled electricity out the air. They could run cities on little balls of energy like this, little orbs. Run cities on it. People's concepts that electrical and the atomic use of energy is new is a fraud. It is ancient beyond ancient. The Sahara Desert out there, or like when you go, how many of you, anybody in the military, been in White Sands in New Mexico? White Sands in New Mexico, one of the reasons the sands is white because there's ancient atomic war. Crystallized the sand. These are facts that you don't know about your own history. The Great Lakes were made with atomic power. They're not natural.
That's right.
And they always have a mist over them.
That's right.
For fresh water for the Western Hemisphere. Our concepts about ourselves are just totally wrong. Most of what you've been told about yourself in history is just not true. A lot is coming out now because people are being forced to, not because, I'm speaking from my opinion. If it weren't for the middle class Europeans being thrown under the bus, a lot of things that they're saying they wouldn't tell. Like Drew Ali said, he's going to make the Europeans tell the truth. Because they're catching it. They're catching it. But still, at the same time, they're still trying to steal the birthright. Are we clear? Now, so what's important, and this is key, I want to emphasize this. The United States Service Corporation that Lincoln bankrupted in 1860. He bankrupted this in 1860. 1861, the Congress adjourned sine die, which was a coup d'etat. 10-year span, they set up the political platform that was necessitated to undermine the republic. Are we clear?
Clear.
But to veil its operations as if it was legitimate. Are we clear?
Clear.
So they took on the name American, which they're not, and said they're Americans, called us blacks, which takes us out of the treaty and the Constitution, put their names on us, which makes them property, and wards of the state, which means you have the right of a state. No matter how old you are, you're listed as a minority. All right? Are we clear? They converted all allodial titles to mortgages and deeds. Woodrow Wilson did that in 1913. Now you understand the motive. And why they met off Jekyll Island in Georgia. Then Drew Ali told the Queen of England, enforce the treaty and Constitution, stop the BS. Then you understand why the movement was infiltrated. Are we clear?
Clear.
And why the so-called black leaders and sheiks and stuff here don't talk about the OAS, which is the Organization of American States. That's all the true Americans that came to Drew Ali's aid in Havana, Cuba. Are we clear?
Clear.
And what do? They try to hide all the papers or any information about that.
Can you say that one more time?
And you start talking about constitutional stuff, they'll start telling them, Drew Ali don't teach no civics, he only teaches religion.
Can you say that one more time? The organization, organization of what?
OAS is the Organization of American States. See, America is from Greenland
Come on.
down to Chile,
That's right.
including the islands on the left and the right, and the Pacific and the Atlantis, which is called Americana. The Europeans, with the help of Negro leader guys, been telling the people that America's a country, and that the United States Corporation is America, and that the Europeans are Americans using sovereign power of America. You're the Americans.
Come on.
You've been stripped of your sovereign power, and they've been going to and fro the earth, devouring nations in your name, and no one has been speaking up except the prophet. And he asked you to do the same for your Moorish movement. He said, protect your prophet and your Moorish movement. And you already know, and I ain't got to exaggerate it, it ain't been happening. There's been more people outside of this movement that's been helping the Moorish movement than a lot of people in the movement. They're full of doo-doo and need to be called to the carpet on it. Because it's the birthright of all the Americans. He said, come all ye Asiatics of North America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright. He said club members. He said only ones in the temples. And on them, everyone that's a sheik or sheikas, on their paperwork it says hedges in the highways. And they made little clubs that they made reverse churches out of. That's what they've been doing. And taking people's finances. And suppressing and attacking anybody that talks about constitutional law or civics. When that's the heart of the movement. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, deal. This is the deal. So, this United States corporation has been perpetrated in the minds of the people as a country since 1861. And that's a fraud. The country is Morocco. Under occupation. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, the deal. No Drali, like in chapter 47, Circle 7 Quran, he's actually set up basically the order itself, the Moorish Divine National Movement, not just the temple. The Moorish Divine National Movement itself is a trust. He's dependent on you to uphold the integrity of that trust, because it already exists before you were born. You don't have to create a new wheel. You need to be part and parcel of that which already is. Step up to the constitutional fold that already exists. Are we clear?
Clear.
You had people in position of authority who've been blocking you, or creating confusion, or creating gray areas. I'm trying my best to remove the gray. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, keep this in mind. So Lincoln bankrupted this United States. The plot of the Congress, which is no longer a Congress after 61, keep this in mind. There really are and have been since 1861 this.
Putting this out.
That's who they really are. And they do nothing to serve the people. They do everything to serve the corporation. That's why you're broke now. And the national debt is a fraud. The national debt is the alleged debt that they did in your name to restore this. And so they put the debt on the nationals. Which is why when you declare your nationality, they be saying things to try to make it sound negative. Oh, they think they sovereign. They don't want to observe U.S. law. No, we enforce Constitution law, which comes from Muslim law. They will always misrepresent, but you must correct it. Are we clear? So the persons that are calling themselves congressmen are really and have been actually board of directors for Queen Elizabeth under the secret Treaty of Verona with the U.S. democracy platform. And every time you go interchange with them, you're actually dealing with private corporate heads who are still in your estate. They're not government. And as an interim, swipe that computer, as an interim, for you to understand some of this, which is why we tell you about the Clearfield, now you understand why the Clearfield Trust Company won that case. Because they weren't allowing them to put the nigger codes on them. And I won't get into that, but that's what that's all about. That's what the Clearfield that's why it became a doctrine. That's why they call Clearfield doctrine. That's why it became a doctrine. It's predicated on this knowledge, you all. Are we clear? Go ahead, Dr. Nayo.
Islam, I've been, when I'm watching the camera, so I get to see all of the comments that are coming over from the viewers. About 76 people right now watching. And of course, you
Can I say good night, girlfriend?
You get trolls on both sides, we get them everywhere. But we also have some legitimate...
If you go into like
Taj has to play with his own baby before she leaves.
You think you're going to where? I tell you, yes, mama. I tell that girl, yes, mama. Yeah, girl. I tell you.
I got him on camera like
Anyway.
Okay, what I was going to say is I see the comments, And some, they both go both ways, pro and con, but a lot of support. But then there are also folks that are saying, oh, it's real redundant. We hear the same thing over and over again. I get a chance to talk to you, dialogue with you a lot.
Yes.
Probably more than most, so I know where your head is and where your heart is in a lot of areas. I know for myself personally that you've been coming here since 2011. It took me probably until 2016 for the light bulb to come on. Up until that point, I was making a venue available to people that I thought other people that needed this.
Yes.
I didn't personally feel like, I didn't need a remedy. I wasn't, stopped, traveling or riding or driving or whatever. I know the difference now between driving and traveling, but I'm saying those things, nobody was coming to take my property. So I didn't see the connection with me, but I felt in my heart a reason to make this venue, and I still do, available. It pains me when I see some of the stuff that comes over the screen because, we want to come, we're trying to come together. We have been divided by many factors. But when you see so-called Moors who are coming to, hopefully to get the knowledge, yet they're fighting and arguing about, the validity of the teacher or who's, representing MSTA versus whatever. It becomes painful. But my point is, people want solutions. Some people, not everybody, not everyone wants you to do all things, but some people want you to do everything for them. So they're saying you're giving out information, but no solutions. But we have to study.
The solution is people taking responsibility.
This is my point.
Yes.
Waking up and being cognizant of what's going on, like I wasn't for the first 5 years, to me is like step one.
Yeah.
If more of us would wake the hell up, then we would not be fighting and we wouldn't have to worry about what the European was doing because we would be in our rightful place.
This is what I recognize with a lot of trolls. The reality is that truth exposes them for the hypocrites and the phonies that they are. And so they attack the truth as if the truth is a lie.
Absolutely.
Or as if you must make an apology for telling the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because many of our people have spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of finance in different organizations, giving up finance and time, etc., have never produced any solutions. Knowledge is solution.
Islam.
Setting up a trust that interferes with the processes that are used every day to steal your estate is solution. You can't make people act right. You can give them information. You understand? You can't make them do anything. As you know, doctor, and I have documentation showing that people use the information and preserve their estate. Now that's people who are sincere. And then there's people that know even more than I am telling you relative to preserving estate. One of the things that I recognize is when people don't know what they're dealing with, they're assuming when they're interchanging with these people that they're dealing with government operators, and they start giving them private information and making trust claims with these people, and they're really the thieves. They're not government. They don't have the authority. They've been exercising authority that they do not have. And they deliver nothing because they have nothing to deliver, if you get the point. This is why, over the years, I've always told people the dangers of the UCC usages. I understand what the presentment is. I understand what the promise is, but you're dealing with an imposter platform. And so you have people in organizations that register themselves with these criminals, and these criminals have been stealing your estate, and they're accelerating the liquidation. These are political activities that are currently occurring. And, and I think a lot of times, too, people want truth to come in flavors. No, truth is what it is. Truth is redundant. It must be redundant because the lie is proliferating. And they've been redundantly dealing with lies and energies. And what they should come up with is bring some solutions and bring it to the House of Ram and share it with us so we can expand on this information if they have solutions. You know, outside of that, tie up their sneaks. You know, because that's the real deal, because that's what most of the trolls do, because it's two things. A lot of the information, once you give reference and people do research for themselves, it makes a lot of people who were once considered credible incredible. And so they think you're attacking their leader guys and leader girls. Because when you educate people, it's hard for people to use them anymore, to make them naive followers and give them their lunch money. And I'm suggesting to you that a lot of the people that troll on them sites are people who are directly or indirectly beneficiaries of selling packages or selling processes, and this information kind of sets their bandwagon. So they attach Taji guys. But this is what I suggest. Prove what I said is wrong. Prove it that's what it said in the mouth, and get your hands out of our pocket. And for some of the other ones, stop selling people packages, because birthright is not be sold. You know, administrative costs, sermon is worthy of his hire. Anything beyond administrative costs is theft. Unalienable rights cannot have a lien on it. This is the absolute politics. This is not Taji's opinion. This is the politics that's going on. And that person who's trolling, or persons, should be telling the people the truth about this themselves rather than trying to suppress it. Because if they did, we'd have more energy countering this. Because this is where our problems come from. That is the root of the problem. It's not an opinion, that is the root of the problem. To talk about the symptoms and not talk about the root is not solutionary, is it? You talk about the root and the people themselves can start thinking, can't they? Like the prophet said, if I could get you all thinking again, you'd save yourselves. One of the things, and this is another reason why I presented earlier the Etymon degree. Because for the most part, people can't read. They really can't read. Doesn't mean that they don't, you know, look at words and pronounce them, but they can't comprehend what they're reading. And thus, tell them to go look up, you know, tell the trolls to go look up the statistics on the reading level of these Asiatics in North America under the black brand. And you'll see it's 4th grade reading level, from the adults right on down. And the deal of it is, you're not going to have any solutions with people who cannot read. And you're not going to have any solutions with people who will not deal with reality. This is reality. This is the real politics. And what I would suggest for them to do research on this and prove Taji guy wrong. That's what I suggest. Other than that, stop wasting good people's time. Because in due time, it is persons like that that will probably have to be eliminated to save the children. In reality, when you get into the reality of these wars that has been waged against our people for generations, it's going to get to a point that you're going to have to remove some people to save your babies. And people who have been suppressing truth or trying to make people who tell the truth have to apologize for telling the truth is one of our greatest Judas factor dead weights that need to be fed to pigs. And that's the real truth. Because that's common sense. Now, if you understand that the Romans set up a global estate trust to administer over your properties, including your labor, and that all of the heads and owners of the corporate entities under England, Canada, Scotland, and the United States Service Corporation, which is a British colony, still are members of the Roman Curia. How is this information not important? And that's what's controlling your everyday life, whatever you buy or sell, whatever card you use. When you're traveling up and down the highways, the IRS, all of them are members of the Roman Curia robbing your people. What they should be doing is helping bring some solution and helping with this venue and expanding this venue. And it doesn't come in flavors, if that's what they want, or new versions. It comes in what it is. And what you find is people aren't aware of it. And then people who have been made aware of it aren't clear on it. And so they must be clear in order to be competent. Because what you're going to have to do is start removing people out of your way who've been holding you back in the name of leadership. This is why Dwali did caveat emptor, and it has not been enforced, and the people are paying for it. They actually are paying for it. Now, I would like someone to come and go into the dictionary and classify and read identity. And identification.
Identity, a verb, to determine or establish as a particular person or thing, ascertain the nature or supposed identity of. Definition 2, to consider or treat as the same, make the same or identical. He identifies money with happiness, is the sentence. Definition 3, to serve as a means of recognition or identification of. The teeth identified the skull. Definition 4, to join or associate in interest, action, etc., usually with, he identified his name with a well-known charity. Definition 5, to determine the proper genus, order, etc. And definition 6, to make identification of oneself with someone else. And he also wants me to read identification. That was identify. He wants me to read identification. It's a noun. The act or process of showing to be the same. Definition 2, the state of being shown or proved to be identity.
So now the masses have been taught that America's a country, have they not? Yeah. Not too many people have corrected that or disputed that, have they? No. So under the rule of affidavit, it has been standing under a color of law, hasn't it?
Yeah. Never did.
And the true Americans have been calling themselves black. And they are not. And upon a challenge, you have leaders amongst them that insist on continuing that fraud. Haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
Which causes the operators of the corporate state, by right of abandonment, to continue to liquidate these people's estates, doesn't it? Under foreclosures, doesn't it?
Yes.
If they don't know that, they allow it to happen, don't they?
Yes.
is being made known to you so that you can take responsibility.
All right.
Failure to do so continues the consequence. I also suggest, in truth, that if it were not for Manchurian Masons stepping in, that a lot more danger and injury would have been befallen these people in North America that are called black. But because Rome is not totally in check, but has been stagnated a little bit with their extermination plans by interference with approximately 6.5 million perfected assassins who have been countering European colonial operations on multiple levels in the background, on your behalf, in spite of the traitors amongst you, you would be seeing more injury and more blood than you do now. However, things will get a little worse before they get better. However, they will get better as some of the Satanists are removed out of the way. And it ain't because of your leader guys who've been betraying the prophet either. So when they get on there and knock Taji guy, guess what? I got alligator skin. Because my ego ain't in it. So you can stop the BS and get to work and help liberate these people by eliminating the platforms of these fake black scholars who keep on putting our people under the Christian black codes and then pretending they're helping the people when they know that the Christian black codes make these people non-descendable. That's a fact. That's not a Taji guy opinion. That's a political reality. And you're being made aware of it so you yourself can start throwing the shackles off. You must do it. Taji guy ain't going to do it for you. Every man, every woman, and every child must confess their own. Nobody's going to confess it for you. But if you weren't aware, you're being made aware. And being made aware, you must take responsibility. And thus the Etymon degree so you can read and no longer make excuses. And as he's given the linear entries, he's numbered from 1 to 6 so far, you're to be able to disseminate the connotative entries from the denotations, which are definitions, and make comparative relationships to the Etymon, so that you can start doing what? You can start enforcing the covenants and the treaties, and you can start neutralizing instruments that have been put upon you under a color of authority that you thought were legitimate, that were actually set up to steal your birthright and estate. And for those children that have little left anymore, start putting your stuff in trust, since the traitors amongst our own undermine Noble Drawley's setup of the trust and won't teach trust law. They really definitely won't. And they're not going to teach constitutional principle, which is why we started sharing with you some examples of trust so you can start protecting your families on your own. And in due time, when some Moors come into this movement with their eyes already open, start cleaning up these temples, we can get some good foundations and you can put your stuff in trust under the temples where it should have been in the first place. However, if you've got these traders running them, you understand Rome is going to liquidate everything you've got. They're going to take everything from you. And these guys are getting paid in the background whether you know it or not. Which is why they preoccupy their time criticizing Taji guys, sort of getting to work on the hedges and the highways. So my issue is to get as much information to you and get it clear to you so that you will have something to act on. But in knowing the history, you already know the motive. If you don't know the history, you don't suspect the motive. If you don't know the motive, you're not inspired to uplift the movement because you won't recognize its importance. Are we clear? How many people raise your hand and know what a allodial title is? You took a minute, but it's cool. How many people know what Aboriginal titles are? Everything in the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Temple of Science, Old Canaanite temples across North America are supposed to be in allodial title. And them people called grand chiefs and chiefesses supposed to have told you about this decades ago. And we don't have to argue whether they did or not because they spend so much time criticizing me for exposing this information. Because that's what everything is supposed to be in trust in under the Moorish Science Temple under the allodial title. Are we clear?
Clear.
So I'm telling you so you can study and you can start enforcing law. And like Drawley said, if nobody else enforced that law, you be that one. Are we clear?
Clear.
But I'm also suggesting to you, not because I say so, because I expect you to use your intelligence and to do a little bit of research. You do a little bit of research and you're going to find out what trouble you're in right now. I want you all to look up the Act of Congress 1871. I want you to look up the Buck Act, the Negro Act, Trading with the Enemy Act, the setup of the Federal Reserve, etc. And even when J.P. Morgan and them sank the Titanic in order to establish the Federal Reserve. That's why the Titanic was sunk. It didn't hit no iceberg, they torpedoed it. That was done to set up the Federal Reserve for the Jesuits. And you're going to start finding out a lot more other stuff that's going to be exposed. But the deal of it is, what we're trying to get you to do, because you have so much treason amongst you and so much schism, certain things we do tell you redundantly because we need you to act on your own. Are we clear? You get together with people of like mind, however, you don't have the luxury to be passive. Do you understand? You don't have that luxury. Now, Drawley said, if you have to make the earth your bed and the ethers your blanket, declare your nationality, because he already knows that most of you are going to lose your estates. It's almost like we can tell you these people this stuff forever and redundantly, like some person said, and they don't take this stuff serious. But we're in a mode right now that Rome is accelerating. So we're not going to have to keep telling you too much longer because you're going to feel it. Even though they're not going to be able to satisfy their debt, they're going to sacrifice as many of you that they can to try to buy time. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, as I understand it, they were given a few contracts or promise of contracts with some funding that may keep them afloat for the next couple months. But it's not enough. It's in the billions. It's not in the trillions. And their operations require trillions. So all the programs, the Negro programs that they've been buying these people off with, they're going to collapse. And they're going to steal your bank accounts if you got them. So just, get used to it already. So do the best you can. Like the prophet said, put some water away, put some dry foods away so that you can survive when they try to starve you out. Because they're already in the process of trying to starve you out. They're going to accelerate it. And tell the trolls, come up with some solutions. Yes?
Can you repeat those 4 points that you asked us to study? You said the Act of Congress 1871.
1871,
The Buck
Act, Trading with the Enemy Act, and sinking of the Titanic for the purpose of setting up the Federal Reserve platform for the Jesuit order to rob you. And the people being passive has gotten us pretty much where we are now. And the other deal is, you can sell this to the trolls too. Stop looking for sacrificial lambs, you ain't getting none. Put your ass on the battlefield and help get this work done. Because when the people start recognizing the traitors that they are, some of the people are going to get rid of them themselves. And they'll no longer be able to hold up the progress. Because it's people like that that's been pretty much, how do you say, the secret traders. And those are the ones that the CIA and the Southern poverty firm usually approach to come on the sites to troll. And if you do a little research, you can start seeing, you start doing some little research, because there's technology to start tracing some of these people, and you'll find out that they're being paid. Because what they want to do, see, because when you wake up, as you all wake up, a lot of the subdivisional agencies that the Europeans operate don't work. And then their little black budgets for the little Negro leader troll guys, then they don't get their funds. That's why they get out here and try to criticize. Because they know this stuff is true. They do. You know, but see, they're indirect, and people aren't aware that these guys are getting paid off. That includes guys that's constantly taking the noble cause of uplifting our people and having people fight each other in ridiculous debates, disgracing the platform.
Yeah.
That's a diversion, that's a COINTELPRO operation. It's a COINTELPRO operation. No, you know, and I ain't knocking it, it's what it is. But you need to know what it is because it's not in your interest. It's not in your interest. You know, I think a lot of times, and what has happened with a lot of people, by them not being aware of the real political platforms, they think that this information is ours and has nothing to do with them.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
They don't know they more.
Go ahead.
There's one more important definition that's real key to why we stay divided within identification. A process by which an individual usually subconsciously behaves or imagines himself behaving as if he were a person with whom he has formed an emotional tie.
Yes.
For instance, black.
Hey.
Now, you take that, and remember Drew Ali says, your nationality card will change in your pocket. It changes when your consciousness changes.
That's right.
And you'll defend it once you really comprehend what's really going on. And what you'll see is people will start conversations about the symptoms of what's going on here politically and could not give you truth on the political platform. That's why I'm giving you the truth on the political platform, because if you don't know this, you cannot comprehend the politics. You can't. Concepts will be absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I think that sometimes, you know, people have been trained for so many generations with belief systems, and, you know, like a different song, they want a new flavor. Truth doesn't come in flavors. It's what it is. It doesn't change, it doesn't pass away. And people have been dealing with belief systems and they're looking for something different with beliefs. No, you're not going to get that here. You're going to get the truth and you're going to have to deal with it. And your beliefs, not knocking it, put it to the test. Because I guarantee you it ain't going to work. Now, this is what everybody must comprehend. All your rights, all properties, all hereditaments, I don't have a mic. All rights, all your property, all your labor, all hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal, are presently and have been for generations hypothecated. The operators of the board of directors for the United States Service Corporation, who've been calling themselves governors and mayors and senators and congressmen, are all subdivisional members of the Roman Curia. And they've been working toward that end. All of them are Knights Templars or Knights of Malta or Shriners or Masons of different degrees, and in secret wear a Moorish fez with the commitment of administrating over the Moorish Empire, i.e. they are the jurymen over the Moorish estate. The heirs of the estate are required by right of law to answer up to constitutional principles and to speak up. If they fail to speak up, their estate is considered abandoned anyway. And what it does, it gives the European leave to make the claim that he's been making. The idea that people have had that they've been paying off debts are fictional. You're not allowed to pay off debts because the debt is part of the unum sanctum policy of the Roman Inquisition hegemony, which is why they gave you a private commercial paper instrument controlled by the Jesuit orders, etc., under the auspices of the board of directors of the United States Service Corporation, called US dollars, which are not. They're debt instruments belonging to the United States Service Corporation company that was bankrupted in 1860. And the national debt is the fiction of them putting their private debt on the nationals, which is the Moorish Americans who have been preoccupied calling themselves black people. Are we clear? And being reinforced by people who you've trusted, who know this information, which is why when this information comes out, they start criticizing it, because it will uncover every fraud operating. Not because I said so. Once you start doing it, you will see it yourself. And what you will start doing is stop feeding the beast, and thus the beast collapses. And your estate is returned to you by default, not because they're giving you any process of restoring your estate. They have no intentions of restoring your estate. They have intentions of killing off the heirs. Are we clear?
Clear.
And any program that they set up to buy faith, blind faith, is to buy time. Are we clear?
Clear.
So the national debt is a fictional debt transferred on the heirs, i.e. the Moorish Americans who Noble Drawley came to redeem. So he came to redeem the heirs, the proper heirs. The Europeans gave up their birthright when they started agreeing to be white people with the Knights of Columbus Ku Klux Klan oath of 1854, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Knights of Columbus Ku Klux Klan oath of 1863, Chicago, Illinois, etc., under the Whiggamore Party operations and the Republican order, where under Horace Greeley they took on the noble titles of white people, which is a status title having nothing to do with complexion. And in the process of stealing your estate and your birthright, they lost their own. This is what the politics really are right now. Are we clear?
Yeah.
And so what you see taking place is that the nations of the earth are dumping the U.S. corporations T-bonds that's based against the Moorish estate. Are we clear? And they're trying to hide that fact. They're trading places. This is why the identity theft is so important. This is why the 14th Amendment straw transmitting utility platform for the U.S. democracy operators and directors is so important to them. They have no intention whatsoever of honoring any treaty or any process under UCCs or anything else like that. They're just buying time, which is why the Manchurians put out assassins, start eliminating certain members and arresting certain members, and they got about a couple of thousand warrants right now operative that they started initiating the other day. And over half the Congress is going to be thrown in jail. And they're not congressmen. They're actually board of directors. And the only reason it's happening is because if they don't fix it, everything collapses. So they're going to be forced to do it. Islam says. I want you on mic.
Islam. I know for a fact that our U.S. dollar is not being accepted worldwide. I have a business where I order supplies online, and I'm starting to get, it started recently, I'd say in the past year, In the past years, people have been coming back to me saying, sorry, we accept US dollars. And it's more and more, I've lost more people that I order from because they will not accept it at all.
Now, what you're going to see is going to be accelerating.
It is.
It's going to be accelerating. You know, now, and so, this is what's happening. The Honorable, for whatever degree, because I'm not going to knock him, the Honorable Mr. Donald Trump is being assigned to do a dog and pony show. And to, you know, because I'm not going to knock him because in spite of what people think they understand about him, he's doing more good than bad. He's doing what's necessary. You know, and because our people don't know the politics, they immediately take a negative on Donald Trump. Although he's doing a two-mask type thing, and I understand that, you know, but you need to understand what I showed you here to understand Donald Trump. You need to understand that he's operating from this perspective. And just because a lot of people ain't talking this, you know, it's sort of like a lot of other subject matters people are talking about, and it's not that they're not important, because they are, but it's all predicated in this. And so if they're not dealing with this, they're not going to deal with any other solutions. Because the solution is to fix this. You don't fix this, all the other things are symptoms. Now, what you're going to see, they're going to start making it more difficult for you to move things in the account that you think is yours. Not only with the lack of acceptance, what I suggest you do, go look up House Joint Resolution 2748. I think it's 2748. And it's under the guise of employment. Because they plan to steal your account. Go ahead, good brother.
Not being negative, but how do you fix nearly 50 million Moors? How are you proposing, not you, but how are you going to, quote, fix, unquote?
This is what you do. Now, our illustrious prophet brought this information to us 102 years ago on 100th parade. And he told the Moors that they have not been told. That if he told you everything, you go back to sleep. He said, study. Logically, he understood and comprehended that if you studied, you find out a lot of other things.
Right.
And he warned you that he does not want passive Moors. He wants active Moors. He's not denying them their birthright, because they're Moors. But the reality is that passive people have a tendency to become traitors. And they will become enemies to the cause. So we come to venues like this seeking active people, not passive people. And this is why even when you come to positive venues, you'll have trollers that take the passive position to try to pull people back into the passive venue, because many of them are actually working in the dark shadows. You'll be surprised how many people amongst you that you don't know are COINTELPRO-operatives, knowingly. You know, so you don't be surprised, and you don't like give it too much energy, because you know that they're there. What you want to do is try to bring the people to as reasonable level of cognizance and competence. Because when you do, it will be, your protocols will be obvious. Obvious. Meaning that when you go into some of the battles that took place with people that were assigned authority under the withdrawals, say like Kirkman Bey, Neil Eel, and others, and you see the fights that they've had, the hiding of a lot of the papers and stuff like that, and you start recognizing, if you get past personality, don't get personal, stay with principle, and you'll see that the Moors the Grand Body Moors have been cheated. Really cheated. Really cheated. But you don't, if you do take time to study, you can bypass these people who have been blockers, or called suppressants. And like I've always said, you know, people just even did a little bit of research, even in the FBI papers. They could see even through the redaction, the sellout, and the processes, and some of the attitudes of some of these people claim to be black leaders, and some of these people claim to be more sheiks and sheikesses. You see them like a neon sign. Not because I said so. All you gotta do is look at the FBI papers and watch their actions. Watch how they respond to people who teach constitutional law and civics. It tells you everything. Everything. As soon as they start critiquing, and then go look at the FBI papers, and you know why they're doing it. You know, it's just that people aren't exposed to this information, which is why they're sometimes great at trying to figure out stuff. They're trying to work their way out. Meanwhile, they're under attack. At the point, Rome's attacking them, and they're trying to learn at the same. They're on a learning curve. And then the leader guys are in a position, tell them, Giraldi ain't teach no civics. This is just a religious organization. No, this is a divine and national movement. That's what it is. It's a divine and national movement.
Yes, sir.
You know, but again, people have to learn that for themselves. And like I say, don't believe me. You know, do some research. I will give you certain points. And I have a lot, most of the stuff I do, I water down. You know, because people have a tendency to get lazy. You know what I mean? But what I try to do is give primal, or what I call matrix information, or what you call maxims, that leave very little room for dispute. Leave very little room for dispute. And when people dispute it, it's because they're either hating or they're a troll. They won't call it a lie. They don't listen to this stuff. They won't say it's a lie, because if they go that way, then they will be proven to be liars. And if some of you lost your homes and your properties behind these people, you know, in due time, some of you will take care of that. You know, and it will become necessary. It's unfortunate, but in war there's casualties. You know, and the unfortunate thing that we have now is that the European is accelerating the liquidation. And so this is why you see all these false flags, stuff that they're doing all over in other words, they're trying to make themselves relevant because they're becoming irrelevant. But sis, and this is the deal, the world has decided to stop feeding the harlot and to step off. But everybody's vested so deeply that everybody's hurting. So they're doing it incrementally. And you're seeing the signs of it. When I was in Long Beach, California, and in Los Angeles, you know, you've seen ships out there that were docked from even last year with last year's Christmas stuff, because they ain't accepting US dollars. As a matter of fact, even as I've heard yesterday, some of the companies under the OPEC operations aren't accepting US dollars either. They want silver, minimum. And so what they did, they shot down one of the helicopters with about 8 or 9 Saudi princes in it the other day. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and there's a lot of horse trading that's going on, but understand it can't be but so long until it comes home. Like Malcolm said, chickens come home to roost. And we're doing what we can, humbly to what we can, to help our people as best as we can. And
we thank you.
If your consciousness is not risen, you won't survive this thing. It's true. I mean, you know, we need to stop playing, because these people are going to find themselves on the curb in the winter, because they're going to take everything. That's what they're. Part of it is anger on their part. They know this land is not theirs. They know this property is not theirs. But they've been stealing people's houses. They've been stealing your property. Because when they steal the houses, that allow them to get your stuff, because you have to put your stuff in storage. Then they steal. That's how they've been doing. And then they've been selling people's stuff from these storage places. You know, and then people been having strokes from stress. And so they're feeding the medical industry, etc. They're breaking families. You know, but I say this. And this is why we tell people put their stuff in trust. Because what it does, it puts a bridge between you and them. Meaning that they can't just roll over your stuff. As an example, one of the things that's currently going on, there's as a matter of fact, there's two people that I can talk definitely at this moment, that they were coming last year to remove them under writs of execution. And because they had started these things, and really are not totally clear, but what it did, it put brakes on the sheriff. They couldn't execute because they ran into the trust. They ran into the trust, and these people are in their proper person. And then the other problem that you've had is a lot of people over the years that have done UCCs, they've been overriding them because they're not in their proper person. They've been going through all the process, everything proper according to the process, honorably, and they've been overriding. Go ahead.
We're working on our allodial. They're going to override us on that as well?
Now, let's keep this very, very clear.
She's not under mortgage. It's paid for.
It's paid for.
No, it's not.
Well, let me get it.
No,
There's no money.
No, stop. No.
I understand what you're saying. There is no money.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
Come on, teach.
It's not that. It's not that. Let me show you something. It's not that. That's a wrong. That's what the Europeans have been saying. No. Listen. I'm going to explain to you. I know exactly what you're saying, but what we need to do is get absolutely correct. Are we clear? Now, let me see this.